You know that feeling perfectly, right?
Mhm.
The alarm goes off at maybe 6 in the morning, and you just wake up with these absolute flawless intentions for the day ahead.
Oh, yeah. The clean slate.
Exactly, the clean slate. You've mentally mapped it all out. You are going to eat clean. You're going to have this amazing mindset. You are going to be infinitely patient with everyone.
Like your kids are your boss.
Right. And you're going to finally ignore that urge to just endlessly scroll on your phone. You tell yourself, I am absolutely going to be in bed with a good book by 9:30.
And the funny thing is, for the first few hours, it actually feels easy.
It does. You are just crushing it. But then, the sun goes down.
Yeah.
And suddenly, it is like 11:15 at night. You are standing in the dark kitchen lit up by the glow of the open fridge, and you're eating this piece of cold leftover pizza you swore you wouldn't touch.
While holding your phone in the other hand.
Yes. Swiping through some feed you don't even care about, and you just feel completely unraveled, like the day just defeated you.
Standing there in the cold light of the fridge, I mean, the inner voice is almost always identical for every single person. You look at the food, you look at the screen, and you think, why am I so undisciplined?
Yeah, like what is wrong with me?
Exactly. What is wrong with my character that I can't just stick to a simple plan? We view that evening moment as this deep personal failure. We just label ourselves as lazy or lacking any real drive.
And the really sad part is, when you believe you are just a lazy person, your only fix is to try and punish yourself into being better.
Right.
You wake up the next morning and tell yourself, today, I'm just going to push harder. I'm going to force it. I'm going to have total discipline.
Which mathematically sets you up to repeat the exact same cycle. Relying on sheer force of will is, well, it's the strategy that failed you yesterday, and it will fail you again tonight.
So it's a trap, basically.
A total trap. To understand why we fall apart in the evening, we have to stop looking at our character and start looking at our actual physical body. This late-night unraveling isn't a lack of discipline at all. It is a highly measurable, entirely predictable pattern happening inside your brain as the day goes on.
And that is exactly what I want to dig into today. Because I think every person secretly wonders about this, right? Like, why does my own mind quietly turn against me at night?
It's a huge question.
It is. So let's just get straight into the physical side of it. What is actually happening in our heads between that optimistic morning alarm and that late night fridge moment?
Well, it comes down to a really basic physical reality, which is often called decision fatigue. Your brain has a strictly limited capacity for hard choices across a single day.
Okay, limited capacity.
Right. And the catch is, every single choice you make draws from the exact same mental tank. It doesn't matter if you are deciding whether to take a huge new job offer or figuring out how to word a tricky email or just, I don't know, choosing between a blue shirt or a gray shirt in the morning.
It all drains the same tank.
Exactly. All of it.
Yeah.
The giant choices and the tiny ones. They all pull from the same finite pool of mental energy.
I always picture it kind of like a phone battery. You wake up, you're unplugged from the wall, and you are at 100%. But every tiny choice you make is like an app running in the background.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, like choosing an outfit is an app. Dealing with bad traffic is an app. Deciding what to eat for lunch is an app. By 8 at night, your brain is functionally on low power mode.
It really is. The system sees the battery is in the red, so it starts shutting down the heavy apps just to survive until bedtime.
And unfortunately for us, things like patience and growth mindset and willpower, those are the heaviest apps on the phone. So they're the first ones to get force closed.
They absolutely are. The part of your brain that handles planning and self-control uses a ton of energy. It needs a massive amount of physical fuel like blood flow and sugar to run properly.
It's a total energy hog.
The biggest one in your body. As the day drags on and you force that engine to work over and over, it burns through its physical fuel. It just becomes less able to override your older, more automatic habits.
So the brain doesn't actually shut off at night.
No, not at all. It just aggressively changes its plan. It realizes it can no longer afford the heavy cost of complex choices, so it starts desperately looking for shortcuts. Defaults, whatever action requires the absolute least amount of effort.
Which explains the magic of the drive-thru.
Yes.
That is why the healthy dinner, the one that requires chopping veggies and turning on the oven and doing all those dishes, it suddenly loses to just tapping a burger on an app.
Path of least resistance.
Right. It explains why taking a deep breath and being calm with your partner loses to just snapping at them. Why closing the laptop loses to letting the TV autoplay one more show. The brain is quite literally starved of fuel.
And you can actually see just how powerful this physical override is when you look at high-stakes professional settings. I remember reading about this massive review of people who make huge, life-altering legal choices. Judges who decide if someone in prison gets to go free on parole.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the pattern they found was just shocking. These judges were way more likely to grant a favorable ruling, meaning they let the person out maybe 65% of the time first thing in the morning, or right after they had taken a food break.
Wait, really?
Yes. But as the session dragged on, right before their next break, when their mental tank was totally empty, favorable rulings dropped to almost zero.
Okay. I have to stop you there because I have a hard time buying that. We are talking about a judge's ruling. This isn't choosing between a salad and a donut. This is a massive choice for a human life, made by a highly trained legal expert.
I know it sounds crazy.
It does. I mean, how does a snack override years of legal training?
It is deeply unsettling to hear, I totally agree, but it perfectly shows how our clarity drops when we are tired. When a judge is sitting there hours after their last meal, the fuel their brain needs is just gone.
Right, the battery's flashing red.
Exactly. And granting parole is a highly complex, risky choice. It requires the judge to weigh past habits, think about social risk, predict future actions. It takes immense mental effort.
And denying?
Denying parole simply keeps things exactly as they are. The person stays in jail. Nothing changes. It is the safe default option that requires zero mental risk. The judges were not trying to be unfair.
They just didn't have the energy to think deeply anymore.
Right. When their brains were tired and starved of fuel, their biology defaulted to the easiest, safest option.
That actually makes total sense when you break down the mechanics of the choice itself. Denying the request is the path of least effort. It really highlights that no amount of training makes you immune to your own body's pattern.
Not at all. It's like a muscle. If you do heavy lifting all day long, eventually your arm will become so tired it won't be able to lift a feather. Your willpower muscle gets tired in the exact same way with repeated use.
And looking at our modern life through that muscle idea is kind of terrifying. I mean, modern life requires hundreds, maybe thousands of tiny daily choices.
So easily thousands.
We are managing this endless stream of phone alerts and texts and digital choices. 100 years ago, a person might make a handful of big choices in a week. Today, we make 50 choices before we even get out of bed, just by looking at our screens.
And our brains were just never built to handle that heavy, constant load. So because the brain relies on physical fuel to manage all that, our daily habits are either protecting that energy or they are rapidly draining it.
What kind of habits are draining it the fastest?
Well, there are these hidden traps that we often mistake for solutions. Coffee is probably the most deceptive one.
Oh, man. I am so glad you brought up coffee, because I am fully dependent on that late afternoon iced coffee to just push through the slump.
So many people are.
I always just assumed I lacked natural energy, and the coffee was the only way to get my brain to finish the day. But based on this whole fuel tank idea, when I drink that late coffee, am I actually doing anything to refill my decision tank?
You are not refilling the tank at all. You are basically just turning off the brain's warning lights.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It acts as a chemical mask. It blocks the signals in your brain that tell you you're tired, but it does not give you new fuel or repair the fatigue in your thinking engine. You are effectively putting a piece of black tape over your car's check engine light and just pressing the gas pedal harder.
That is a harsh truth.
And to make it worse, that late coffee severely messes with the deep sleep your brain desperately needs to clear out the waste and recover for the next day. So you wake up tomorrow with an even smaller tank of willpower.
That is a tough pill to swallow, but the mechanics of it are undeniable.
Mm.
What else is draining the tank?
Skipping meals is a big one, or eating heavily processed junk food. It creates a massive energy spike, followed by a severe crash, starving the brain right when you need clarity the most.
Right, the classic afternoon crash.
Exactly. Even mild dehydration is a silent tax on an already tired brain. But the most common drain is our screens. Every single alert you check forces the brain to make a tiny choice.
Do I open this email right now?
Do I swipe away this news alert?
Do I reply to this text? Each one is a tiny withdrawal from the exact same willpower account you will desperately need at 9 tonight to put the phone down and go to sleep.
It is literally death by 1,000 cuts. And what I find so freeing about understanding this is how quickly it shatters the toxic stories we tell ourselves.
Oh, completely.
We're conditioned by society to believe that evening burnout is just a lack of drive. There is this huge myth that discipline is just a fixed personality trait.
Hmm.
Like, highly successful people are just genetically blessed with an endless tank of willpower, and the rest of us just need to try harder.
The physical reality entirely rejects that idea.
Yeah.
Self-control is not a fixed trait. It is a fluctuating resource. It rises and falls based entirely on your daily use and your physical rest. So the people we think have endless willpower are just managing their tank better.
Sometimes they are actually struggling more. High-achieving people often suffer from decision fatigue way more than others, precisely because they are making a higher volume of complex choices all day long. They drain their tanks faster because they are running a much heavier engine.
And that completely shatters the idea that fatigue only comes from massive choices. We assume we should only be tired if we bought a house or changed jobs today.
Right, the big life events.
Yeah. But the reality is that the buildup of tiny forgettable choices, like figuring out what to wear, deciding what to eat, choosing which message to reply to, that does the absolute most damage to our daily resilience.
I have a good friend, Michael, who works in high-pressure sales. And his story perfectly shows how this drain looks in a normal life. Every single evening, he would order expensive takeout that he hadn't planned on eating. He would mindlessly scroll his phone for an hour, and then he would go to bed just furious with himself.
Blaming his own lack of discipline.
Exactly. His inner voice was brutal. Sitting on the couch, looking at an empty food container, wondering why he couldn't just find the strength to cook the groceries he bought 2 days ago.
That feeling of imposter syndrome just creeping in, making him feel like a failure.
Totally. But the turning point for him wasn't getting a new diet app or reading a harsh self-help book. He started looking at the sheer volume of choices he made before 6 p.m.
The thousands of tiny cuts.
Yes. Between rapid client calls, managing his sales numbers, and constant phone alerts, his thinking engine was basically a burnt piece of toast by the time he drove home. He was trying to draw water from a completely empty well.
So how did he fix his evenings?
He had to change his days. He started deciding his dinner plans the night before, so the choice was already made when he was fresh. He also ruthlessly turned off all non-essential phone alerts during the workday to stop those tiny choices.
He didn't magically get a stronger character.
No. He simply reduced the friction in his day, making sure there was actual physical energy left in the tank by the time he walked through his front door.
But, Michael had a desk job where he could just turn off his alerts. A lot of people can't do that. Like my friend Jennifer, who is a nurse, working these intense random clinic shifts.
That is a totally different kind of pressure.
It is. She found herself constantly snapping at her family the second she got home. And you can't exactly tell a nurse to turn off patient monitors or stop making high-stakes medical choices just to save her willpower.
Right. Her situation is a perfect example of a heavy load you just cannot escape.
Exactly. Her job requires immense empathy and rapid medical math. By the end of a shift, she had literally zero emotional patience left for the people she loves most. And the guilt from that was crushing her.
So what does she do?
Because she couldn't change her workday, she changed her transition. She built this 10-minute strict ritual in her car before walking into her house. She just sat in complete silence, no audio, no phone calls, no music, no choices at all.
That is so powerful. She was deliberately letting her nervous system power down.
Yeah, just dropping the stress levels.
Bleh.
By removing all the noise, she gave her brain a brief window to rest before demanding that it engage in the complex emotional task of being a present, patient parent.
It wasn't about achieving some perfect Zen state. It was just a practical, physical reset.
And it worked. It gave her back the emotional presence she wanted to have with her family.
Which brings us to really the most important part of this whole talk. If we are trapped in a modern world that is actively trying to drain our tank, how do we actually redesign our days to defend ourselves?
How do we fix the leak?
Well, the fixes usually fall into 3 phases: morning habits, evening prep, and your overall mindset. Starting with the morning, the main goal is to aggressively reduce early decisions.
This is where grouping choices becomes a huge superpower. If you eat the exact same breakfast every single weekday, or if you wear the same style of clothes to work, you are killing off choices.
You're saving the battery.
Right. Every trivial choice you eliminate at 7 in the morning is a drop of willpower you get to keep for 7 at night.
And you also need to align your hardest tasks with your physical peak. You want to tackle your most difficult talks or your deepest work early in the day. You cannot afford to save your hardest thinking for 4 in the afternoon when your tank is running on fumes.
And you have to take actual, real breaks.
Yes.
We have this terrible habit of thinking that scrolling through social feeds at our desks counts as resting.
Ah,
But based on everything we just talked about, Swiping through a feed is just forcing your brain to process a rapid-fire series of tiny choices.
It is the exact opposite of rest. It just continues the drain. Real breaks mean stepping away from screens and allowing the brain to actually idle.
And eating real food, right, going back to those judgment.
Exactly. Keeping your blood sugar stable is a huge part of managing your day. But the real magic of this whole system happens when we look at the second phase, which is evening prep.
I love this strategy because it openly admits that the evening version of yourself simply cannot be trusted.
No, they are a completely different person.
They are. You have to pre-decide your evening choices at 2 in the afternoon. If you decide what you are having for dinner while your clarity is still sharp, you don't have to rely on the exhausted version of yourself to make a good choice at 7 p.m.
I saw a brilliant example of this from a father named David. He realized his worst habit was impulsive online shopping late at night when he was just too tired to care about his budget.
Oh, the midnight purchases?
We've all been there.
Yeah.
And he didn't just tell himself to be better next time. He used the mechanics of decision fatigue against his own bad habits. He logged out of all his shopping apps, chose not to save the passwords, and deleted the apps from his home screen.
The friction there is just genius.
It really is.
When his exhausted brain wanted to buy something at 11 p.m., the path of least resistance was no longer just clicking buy now. The easiest path was doing nothing, because resetting a password and digging through menus required way too much mental effort for a tired brain.
He weaponized his own fatigue. He essentially redesigned his space so that doing the right thing required zero willpower, and doing the wrong thing required a ton of it.
I really think we need to replace the way we talk about willpower entirely. Instead of treating it like a muscle that we just need to flex harder, we should look at it like a strict daily budget.
I like that.
Like you wake up with exactly 100 willpower dollars. If you spend 90 of those dollars before lunch on trivial things, like agonizing over what shoes to wear, stressing over a meaningless text, fighting the urge to check your phone 50 times, you only have $10 left for the whole evening.
You literally cannot afford to be patient with your kids or cook a healthy meal.
Exactly. You are cognitively bankrupt.
That budget idea captures the reality so perfectly, and it leads directly into the final and maybe most vital phase of the whole strategy, the mindset shift.
How we talk to ourselves.
Right. When you catch yourself standing in front of the fridge at midnight, totally unraveling, the most powerful immediate action you can take is to simply name the state out loud. Say to yourself, I am not a bad person. I am just experiencing decision fatigue.
Just labeling the physical state stops the shame spiral in its tracks.
It does. Naming an internal feeling immediately drops its intensity. It moves you out of the realm of harsh self-criticism, which, ironically, only spikes your stress and leads to more bad habits anyway.
It just creates a vicious cycle.
Exactly. But naming it moves you into a space of gentle self-compassion. And from that space, you can prioritize the ultimate reset button, which is just going to sleep. Poor sleep destroys your next day clarity more than almost anything else.
What I find so incredibly encouraging about all of this is that these physical realities apply to everyone, regardless of age.
Absolutely.
Whether you are in your 20s, just trying to build your life habits, or you're in your 30s, juggling a million pressures from work and family, or even if you are 45 and older, wondering if your thinking patterns are just permanently stuck.
They are never stuck.
Right. The brain remains changeable at every single age. In fact, sometimes the biggest mindset breakthroughs happen later in life because the why behind the change becomes so much clearer.
That is the ultimate takeaway here. Your evening struggles are a physical reality, not a personal failure. We have to collectively stop trying to force our way out of a drained battery.
We have to stop blaming our character.
Exactly. Growth is not a magical, fixed place that you just suddenly arrive at one day because you finally found enough discipline. Growth is a direction. It is a direction that you actively choose every single day by managing your mental budget wisely and protecting your energy for the things that truly matter.
We have covered some really deep ground today, going from the heavy energy demands of our thinking engine to hungry judges making lazy choices to the realization that our patience in the evening is heavily dictated by how many tiny choices we made before lunch.
It really changes how you look at your day.
It changes everything. But I want to leave you with one final, lingering thought to mull over long after this conversation ends. We talked about how every single phone alert, every autoplay video, and every endless scroll is actively withdrawing funds from your limited daily willpower budget.
Yes, stealing your energy.
Right. So if that is true, How much of your daily exhaustion is actually by design? How much of your late night unraveling, your impulsive acts, and your deep fatigue has been intentionally built by platforms and systems that directly profit from your drained, highly impulsive evening self?
These thoughts, these questions, they don't have to stop here. Geeks Mindset has many more podcasts and videos just like this one. Subscribe to the channel and explore other episodes. They all flow the same thoughtful way. If this podcast felt genuinely useful to you, share it with even one person in your life. That one share can bring a real change in someone's life, and it helps Geeks Mindset reach more people who truly need this. If this brought you real value, look for the join button right next to the Geeks Mindset logo below this video. Click it and become a member of the Mindset Support Circle. Your support helps honest mindset awareness reach thousands who are silently struggling. Geeks Mindset moves forward because of you. Thank you so much from the heart for being here.